Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, podcast listeners. I have a scary podcast for you today. No, I have a wonderful podcast episode for you today. I'm reading to you from chapter 2 of my book, Making Time to Write. So snuggle up, get a cup of tea or whatever makes you feel happy because you're going to be read to by me from chapter 2 of my book. Now, this is not all of chapter 2. It does cliffhang a little bit, so be prepared. But also know that as you listen, you are going to be able to, in just a few weeks, sign up for the book club version of our Navigate program. Now, I'll be talking more about Navigate. I talked about it last week, how I originally thought the book was going to be like a paper version of Navigate, and it's not. But the two things work together really beautifully. And so that's why when we open the doors for enrollment from May 3 to May 13th for our Navigate program, it's our year-long program that helps you double your publication output in the next year. And just it really is a lot about making time to write, but also about centering yourself in your writing and in your career, taking your needs into account and building boundaries that will help you thrive and be happy. And that is a lot what this book is about as well. So when I say the book club version of Navigate, what I mean is that we have interwoven book reading into the Navigate syllabus. And we are inviting everyone who joins Navigate either for the first time or joins our alumni program, anyone who's already in Navigate and has an active, membership at the time of the book club meetings, you are invited to also participate in book discussions around the Making Time to Write book. So I wanted to tantalize you and tempt you a little bit so you can hear some of the book. This is an excerpt from chapter 2, The Danger of the Twin Scarcities. So you're going to learn what the Twin Scarcities are. And I just can't wait for you to hear it. So snuggle up. I am reading to you today on the podcast. Chapter 2, The Danger of the Twin Scarcities. The number one reason academic women and non-binary people give for letting writing fall to the bottom of their list is lack of time. In my past 5 years as a writing coach, I've heard hundreds of my clients say that they know they need to make time to write, but they haven't been able to. Of course, the time we have is the time we have. We can't make additional time despite attempts to wake up earlier and stay up later. The obstacles that we face around writing, then, are attached to the way we perceive time. We continually bump up against the no time problem because academia conditions us for scarcity. Academic culture thrives on the twin scarcities, lack of time and lack of money. From the moment we enter our doctoral programs, we are conditioned for scarcity. By being paid a low stipend and expected to work 24/7, we are ingrained with the belief that there is not enough time or money in academia. Imagine any other job that requires a bachelor's degree and pays less than $20,000 per year for the privilege to work all the time. Assistantships are competitive, again, scarcity, and we should just be really happy to get one because we usually don't have to pay tuition. The tuition is very, very expensive. Again, money is scarce. When I met my husband Guillermo at Michigan State in the early 2000s, I was teaching in the intensive English program, and he was a new doctoral student in animal science. And for those of you asking in your heads, no, he was not my student. Okay, his sister was my student, but we started dating after she finished my class. I was making $24,000 a year working full-time teaching with my master's degree. After I decided to leave that position to pursue my PhD in critical studies in the teaching of English, I was lucky to receive a teaching assistantship. I question the term lucky because the idea that assistantships are highly competitive is the beginning of the scarcity narrative in academia. That narrative is so strong and so ingrained that I felt lucky to be able to leave my $24,000 a year job to be paid $12,000 a year and have my tuition covered. Now, considering the cost of tuition at Michigan State and the number of courses I was teaching, 2 instead of 4, this seemed like a great deal on paper, a step up even. But it's really, really hard to live in the United States on $12,000 a year, as many of you reading this book know. I made it work by using credit cards. And so began a narrative in my own head about how there is never enough money and I would always be in the hole. This narrative started in graduate school, but continues to this day. Next to my $12,000 a year, Guillermo's $18,000 a year, delivered as a combination of stipend and assistantship, seemed luxurious. But of course, it wasn't. The big pay grade difference bought him a job that chained him to the lab day and night. He studied fat cells in a dish, so those cells needed to be kept alive for his lab to function. He had to feed them, photograph them, count them, and cells don't sleep. I vividly remember midnight walks in below zero Michigan winters to accompany him to the lab to feed the cells. The twin scarcities of time and money are inextricably linked. In addition to the scarcity around money, because living on $18,000 a year isn't so easy either, grad school ingrained in Guillermo the belief of scarcity around time. And perhaps more toxically, it instilled in him the belief that academic work can actually happen at any time of day or night. There are no boundaries. The work requires us 24/7. Once you're out of graduate school and into more steady work, the twin scarcities don't magically go away. For me and Guillermo, they followed us into the tenure track. Student loan debt made it difficult for us to establish a household and buy a car, all while we considered ourselves so lucky to have landed tenure track jobs at the same university. We got pregnant with our first baby by surprise in those very early tenure track years, and while I struggled to fit my academic work into daycare hours, Guillermo, conditioned by lab work that required him 24/7, let work flow into our nights and weekends. Pushing back on this overwork was extra hard pre-tenure when we were both worried that one wrong move would mean we would lose our miraculous dual tenure track positions. But even after we both earned tenure, the twin scarcities often drove our career decision-making. And that's the real problem. When you operate from a place of scarcity, you make choices based on fear. Fear is a powerful motivator, but choices based in fear often have the opposite effect of what you intend. If you take on too many writing projects based on the fear that you won't have enough publications, your pipeline will slow down to a trickle. If you don't put up boundaries around your writing time because you fear angering people on your tenure committee, you'll never build a healthy writing practice. The purpose of this chapter is to help you recognize and then unlearn scarcity mindset so that you can stop making choices based on fear and step into choices based on abundance. This mindset shift is about the creation of an abundance framework within which to make decisions, both in your day-to-day academic life and in key inflection points in your career. Unlearning scarcity mindset. Your ability to make decisions is rooted in your mindset, and mindset is your set of beliefs about something that drives your behavior. Your mindset is heavily influenced by both the way you are socialized and your experiences in academia. As we learn more about scarcity mindset and the role it has been playing in your writing practice, our goal is to shift from scarcity to abundance. On one hand, scarcity mindset tells us there is never enough, that we must hold on to resources with a death grip. Scarcity stokes our worst fears of failure. On the other hand, abundance mindset tells us that there are plenty of opportunities, that we can make choices from a place of power and intentionality. Abundance makes room for success on your terms. Scarcity keeps us saying yes to writing projects that don't really align with what we're trying to accomplish in our careers just to get a publication. Abundance mindset leads to a curated pipeline where only the best, most impactful writing projects are worthy of your attention. Understanding how you learned a scarcity mindset for time and money is the first step in changing that mindset to one of abundance. This change is hard, and it takes time and self-reflection to make. It's so difficult to reject scarcity mindset because, in some ways, that mindset has served us well. Maybe a belief in scarcity has prompted you to aggressively pursue grant funding, and this has quite literally paid off for you. Maybe your beliefs around the scarcity of time prompted you to learn time management skills that have served you well. We must acknowledge how scarcity mindset has served us personally before we can release it. As you work to shift your mindset from scarcity towards abundance, please know that the decisions you made based on scarcity and fear were perfectly rational decisions in the moment. They made total sense, and again, those choices probably served you well up to a point. However, your beliefs about the scarcity of time and money serve your institutions and the culture of academia much more than they serve you. To make time to write, you'll need to shift into an abundance mindset. Scarcity mindset keeps us in a place of fear, and this fear fuels all that is bad about the racist, ableist, patriarchal culture of academia. The ingrained scarcity of money keeps us from stepping fully into what we are creating as scholars pre-tenure because we fear losing our precious and scarce tenure track position. The fear of losing what little we have is a powerful driver for us not to rock the boat, therefore making less impactful change. By keeping you operating from a place of fear with a scarcity mindset, your institution maintains the status quo. The status quo that relies on exploiting grad student labor and contingent faculty, the one that keeps faculties from unionizing, the one that continues to squeeze every ounce of work out of you at every hour of the day. Now, let me be clear. I am not saying that an abundance mindset will magically line your pockets with money or change your institution's fast capitalist policies. You cannot think your way to $1 million. What I am saying is that to change how we interact with the culture of academia, we need to change how we think. Is a scarcity mindset about money stopping you from fully realizing yourself as a scholar? Is fear of losing money causing you to make choices that are damaging your career and maybe your mental health? Let's dig into some of the ways that scarcity mindset about money in academia manifests itself and how we can push back by developing a mindset of abundance. As we look at examples, we'll be able to pick apart the important difference between a scarcity mindset and actual scarcity. Both are real, both are true, but you can do a lot more to change the scarcity mindset, which can help turn actual scarcity around or prevent it altogether. The job market, for example, is a place where actual scarcity triggers scarcity mindset. The job market for PhDs in humanities is notoriously flooded. According to the New York Times, the number of tenure-track jobs for English professors has declined every year since 2012, for a total loss of 33%. The result of this very real scarcity of tenure-track jobs for PhDs in humanities leads to a scarcity mindset, even if you already have a tenure-track job in humanities. I was coaching a woman on the tenure track in French at a prestigious Ivy League institution. She had a low teaching load, support to do her writing and research, and a small child. She was considering having another baby, but had been told by multiple members of her department that she should not do that pre-tenure. "I'm just so lucky to have this job," she said. "I don't want to mess it up. So many of my brilliant colleagues from grad school are scraping by as adjuncts. If I'm being warned to not have a baby until after tenure, maybe I should heed those warnings." Whoa, stop. This is a scarcity mindset rearing its ugly head. When we are successful at something that other people also want to achieve, and those other people are also talented and worthy of achieving it, a scarcity mindset tells us that we better not make a wrong move or we'll lose this precious thing that we probably only got by accident. My client literally described getting her job as a crapshoot. So I asked her, Can it be true that you are talented and deserving of your tenure track position, and that your friends are talented and deserving of tenure track positions, even if they don't have one? It was hard for her to process this false dichotomy because scarcity was so ingrained. But it is simultaneously true that the market for humanities PhDs is flooded and tenure track jobs are hard to come by. There are many talented humanities PhDs without secure work. My client is a talented professor and worthy of her tenure track line in humanities. After talking about it more, she was able to come around tentatively to the idea that she was indeed qualified for her position. Now, this particular client was a white woman. So did structural inequities favor her in her degree and job pursuits? Yes, absolutely. As a white person, she has benefited from structural racism. Does that mean that she should squash her plans for a second baby out of fear of losing tenure? No. It actually means that she's less likely to lose credibility in her department by getting pregnant because she's white. Here is where real scarcity, a lack of jobs for PhDs in humanities, rubs up against a scarcity mindset and makes that scarcity mindset seem like a trusted way to make decisions when it's not. Now, let's look at an example of how scarcity mindset about time manifests itself in academia. It is true that time is limited. There are only 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, and 365 days in a year. My first job out of college was working as a technical writer for a software company in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Picture a small, windowless office space, lines of cubicles with everything corporate gray. After spending my undergrad in Bloomington, Indiana, reading books and walking through a beautiful tree-filled campus every day, sitting in a cubicle for 8 hours a day felt like torture. Imagining putting up with the cubicle life for 30 years was a big factor in my decision to go to grad school. When I was thinking about life as an academic, one of the perks I thought about was that working hours seemed to be flexible. Observing my professors, I could see that they taught evening classes, were rarely in their offices, and got to travel to conferences in interesting cities. Look at that flexibility. They were not chained to their desks. And indeed, we are not bound to the desk. But even worse, we are bound to the work. And the work, for many of us, can happen at any time of day, or as my husband learned in his grad school job, any time of night. Because we technically can work at any time, day or night, we are particularly vulnerable to the effects of late-stage capitalism on the university. The University of Puerto Rico, where I became a tenured full professor, is a clear example. Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States where the negative effects of late-stage capitalism are abundantly clear. Without getting into a modern history of Puerto Rico under U.S. rule, let's just say that in 2016, the Federal Promesa Act installed an unelected fiscal control board over the locally elected government, whose mission it is to restructure Puerto Rico's debt. Part of this restructuring included a $500 million cut to Puerto Rico's only public institution of higher education, the UPR system. Lest you think that cuts this deep are only happening in Puerto Rico, please reference the University of Alaska and the University of Illinois for similar huge funding cuts. In response to the cut, the university began to enact a series of policies that increasingly squeezed faculty in terms of time. It squeezed non-faculty as well, but I'll use faculty examples here. First, sabbaticals were cut. Where before a professor could apply for a sabbatical to write a book or to do research in a library or lab outside of Puerto Rico, we no longer could. So you'd have to write your book during the academic year while you were teaching your 4-4 load, or during the summer when you're technically not getting paid. When I started as a UPR professor, I could get course release time just for writing grants, not even getting them, to help encourage research and the pursuit of external funds in a university that required teaching 4 classes per semester for tenure track faculty. As the years went by, course releases for seeking grants were eliminated, and you could only get course releases to run grant-funded projects. Today, the policy is that you have to buy out your salary to release your time, which is prohibited in many grant programs, including the federal programs I had tapped for funding. You can get a grant no matter what size, but you need to run it on your own time while teaching your 4-4 load unless you can buy out your salary. And external funding is just one example. Administrative work, which used to come with course release time, also has to happen on top of your 4-4. This particular change took place while I was directing our graduate program. So I took on the role thinking I had reduced my load to 3-3 in order to run the graduate program. But the course release was taken away after just one semester, and I was expected to do the same administrative work without the course release. So we are squeezed, expected to do the same amount of work or more in less time. And I'm sure you can think of a similar cut or policy change in your context that has led you to have to take on something more in your already overpacked schedule. The way many people deal with this extra work is by working more hours. That's how we end up with 60 to 80-hour weeks, as tasks that used to fit into our central working hours of our day must bleed into nights and weekends if we are to get everything done. This real addition of work to our responsibilities only feeds our scarcity mindset about time. Scarcity mindset and writing. Now that we've established what scarcity mindset is and how it deeply affects academics and their beliefs about time and money, I want to dig into how scarcity mindset specifically affects our writing. Since publications are the currency of academia, it's no surprise that, like money scarcity, academic culture ingrains publication scarcity from the very start. But the way we are socialized in regard to the number of publications we have to publish is even more insidious than our socialization about scarcity of time and money. The number of publications needed to get a job, get tenure, get full, get a grant, all of it is kept purposefully mysterious. How many publications are enough? We never know. Because we never know how much is enough, we believe that more is better. This belief reflects scarcity mindset and comes from a place of fear. And this fear of not having enough publications incites us to make decisions that actually cause us to publish less. Picture the image of a pipeline. It is equal in diameter throughout its length. In theory, what flows in also flows out. But scarcity mindset has turned your publication pipeline into a funnel. Many projects get stuffed in the top, but only a few projects drip out the bottom, slowly. Fear driven by scarcity mindset causes you to make decisions about what goes into your pipeline, and those decisions end up having the opposite effect of what you intended. You are preventing publication abundance by operating from a scarcity mindset. By unlearning scarcity mindset, you can stop making decisions based on fear and start creating abundance in your writing. I was coaching a client who was committed to a co-authored article that she really didn't want to work on. The topic was a little bit out of her main research area. So her own publications always got her energy and time because she felt confident and happy working on those. Every time we had a coaching call, she would express her guilt and overwhelm around this co-authored project. I just need to schedule it in and make myself do it because I really need that publication for tenure, she lamented. I asked, do you really though? We proceeded to list all the work she was excited about in her publication pipeline. And I said, you've got a lot of publications here. Why do you keep putting time and energy into planning and not writing that particular co-authored one? She paused. She didn't need that co-authored article to have enough publications for tenure, but she had been operating with such a scarcity mindset around publications that she couldn't see when she had enough. We made a plan for her to back out of the co-authored publication. There was a lot of mindset work to do around that too. And during our next call, she was a different person. Getting rid of this project is such a weight lifted. I'm so much further ahead on everything else now that I realized that project was just weighing me down. And my co-authors actually seemed kind of happy that I backed out. Like my client and her co-authoring project, you are holding on to writing projects that you don't love out of a fear that scarcity mindset generates. Take a moment to imagine your publication pipeline, all the publications that you have currently in play, from idea to revisions to resubmits. Now put a mental gold star next to only those publications that bring you a surge of excitement and energy when you think about them. I know it is not realistic or even smart to release all the projects that don't have a gold star, but I want you to imagine a world where the gold star projects are enough. You are imagining abundance. And if you can overcome or unlearn your scarcity mindset, you can create that abundant world. Most of the clients I work with could be publishing more if their pipelines were less packed to the gills with projects that they just took on to get a publication. By packing your pipeline to the gills with projects outside of your gold star projects, you also create a pipeline that moves more slowly, because it is weighed down by an excess of projects. Because writing is the currency of academia, the twin scarcities combine to incite fear around writing. You must publish more, because if you don't, you won't get that job or promotion, thus losing already scarce financial resources. Yet, your time is so squeezed that you can't fit writing in. The twin scarcities form the perfect storm for creating a funnel, with tons of writing projects shoved into the top, instead of a pipeline with curated publications flowing out at a steady pace. The twin scarcities have been preventing publication abundance. By unlearning scarcity mindset, you can stop making decisions based on fear and start creating abundance in your writing. Stepping into abundance. Now that you've identified some specific ways your mindset around the scarcity of money, time, and publications in academia is not serving you, it's time to replace scarcity mindset with an abundance mindset. So I warned you it was going to cliffhang, because if you want to hear or know how to leave your scarcity mindset behind and step into abundance, you're just going to have to get the book. Now, there are several ways to get the book. Some of you pre-ordered it, but it is going to be available as an ebook released on May 3rd. So it coincides with our Navigate enrollment period. But if you really want to be cool and special, which you already are, but if you want to be extra cool and special, then you will join our Navigate program. And everyone who's joining Navigate new for the first time is going to get an actual paper copy of the book way before anybody else can get it. So these are only available from us directly and only for those who enroll in Navigate during this promotional period. By May 13th, we will send you the book in the mail. To get the hard copy or the paper copy of the book, everybody else is going to have to wait until it's available on Amazon and bookstore.org and all bookshop.org and all those different places in September. So this is a way, the only way for you to get the hard paper copy of the book in your hands before then is by enrolling in Navigate. So more on how is coming up. You can always go and watch our info session, which we talked about for the last couple weeks on the podcast, to get all the information about whether Navigate is right for you, and join us in this special time when the book is also being released. I hope you enjoyed being read to today. I know I love to be read to, and I hope you'll consider, if not joining Navigate, then buying the book when it comes out on May 3rd as an ebook or on paper in early September. But if you want to be in the book club, you'll join Navigate by May 13th, and we will send that book right to you. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.